Hi, everybody. Thank you for coming today. My name is Beatrice Low, and I'm the founder of BeHASSTic. So, BeHASSTic is a nonprofit organization run by high school musicians. We offer many different classes and programs in music theory, composition, and voice. And our goal is to inspire students to pursue and advance their interests in music. Today, we are giving our very first webinar on the Royal Conservatory of Music Theory and Piano Exams, with a focus on Level 5 materials. We will also have some time for a Q&A at the end. Now, our event director and moderator for today will introduce our guest speaker.
Hi, everyone. I'm Julia Zhao, and I'm the event director for BeHASSTic. So I'm going to be introducing the host of today's webinar, Melodie Hewer. So some info about Melodie. She was born into a family where music was always a priority, so it was part of her everyday routine. And so Melodie has a profound love of music and a desire for musical achievement. And as such has devoted most of her life to teaching piano and music theory. Melodie is a graduate of McMaster University and the Royal Conservatory of Music. And she's now a teacher at the Royal Conservatory and holds special designations in all practical and theoretical levels. So to start the class, I'd like to have ask a question about what is RCM and what.
All right, thanks, Julia. It's nice to be with everyone today. I'm going to start off answering that question with a screen share here. So we've got some visuals to kind of support what Julia had just asked. All right, so she asked, what is the RCM and what does it do? All right, so the RCM stands for Royal Conservatory of Music, and it has been in existence for over 130 years and is one of the largest and most respected music education institutions in the world. Main purpose is music education at all levels and for most instruments. It's internationally recognized. It is a graded system of achievement, and students around the world have been participating in its program since its inception. Now, the certificate program, which we're really going to be zeroing in on today, it's a comprehensive system of music study and assessment from elementary to very advanced levels. It is a recognized and respected standard for developing high caliber musicians and is used by more than 500,000 students in North America. Now, part of the reason for its excellent reputation is because it's very comprehensive. As you can see by the next slide here, we have 4 streams. The first stream is Repertoire. Each level includes an interesting cross-section of styles of repertoire from different genres of music, very much geared to each specific level. There's also technical skills, which both support the repertoire and also advance the skills of the student. There's musicianship stream, which tests sight reading and listening skills. And of course, there's a music literacy stream, teaching students about the building blocks of music, as well as historical knowledge of genres and styles.
Okay, so the next question that we have is why would you study musical theory? What's the benefit to studying it?
Okay, that is such a great question, and I've been asked that many times because I teach a lot of theory. So I think I want to provide some helpful background first before we get into the nitty-gritty of why we need to do theory. All right, so there are 2 exam or assessment streams that the Royal Conservatory uses to organize their teaching. So there's practical or performance exams and there's theory exams. Now, the practical or performance exams can be on a variety of instruments, and each examination includes repertoire, technical skills, and musicianship. The theory exam for every level encompasses the other important parts of the stream, like music literacy, rudiments, harmony, history, music appreciation. And for each level of performance, there is a corresponding level of theory which both supports and helps the students with their learning at that particular level. Now, to address that very important question, why do we need to study theory? When we think about music at its simplest level, it's kind of like a big puzzle. Okay, it's made up of patterns of chords and scales that are put together in interesting and sometimes unusual ways. If we don't know theory, we won't be able to recognize those interesting scale patterns. If we don't know theory, we won't be able to understand the function and the purpose of those chords and chord shapes. In addition to the very important fact that knowing theory makes our music easier to learn, it also makes our musical performances much, much better. Let me illustrate how. If we continue to think about music like a puzzle, this is what our performances look like without an understanding of music theory. There are pretty bright colors, interesting shapes, but there really is no meaning to the overall big picture. Now, if we think back on some amazing musical performances we've heard, or maybe we've been able to produce ourselves, the music makes much more sense and it becomes a beautiful picture, like a completed puzzle, with all of the pieces in the right spots, fitting together neatly, the colors now making beautiful designs, much like this one on the screen.
So our third question is, so for the RCM theory, do you have to start from level 1? And what do you need in order to take this theory exams? Where do you start? And again, just do you have to start from level 1 or?
Yeah, these are great questions. So for theory, there are no prerequisites for the early levels, which means you do not have to start with level 1 before you do level 2. There are some considerations that you'll need to talk to your teacher about. First of all, how long have you been playing your instrument is an important factor to consider. And if your teacher has in fact snuck in some theory in their lessons. So with your teacher's help, you should be able to determine what level of theory you'd want to start at. I believe there's also some theory placement exams available that would help assist with that. Now, whatever level of theory you and your teacher decide to start at, there are very comprehensive theory workbooks. And here's some examples on this screen now. There's a workbook. There's an online examination starting from level 5. There's also some optional and answer booklets that go with the Celebrate Theory workbooks. There are practice exam papers, and there's an online study guide. But most importantly, you need to have a great theory teacher, like the wonderful women you're working with at BeHASSTic here, women and men, who can really point you in the right direction with your theory studies. The study of theory, as you know, is very detailed, and your work has to be perfect. All right, it's like math. It's either right or it's wrong. If it's half right, unfortunately, it's still wrong. For example, if you misunderstand one tiny little detail in a chapter, that means that every question you do for homework could be wrong because of that tiny detail. That's why having a good teacher like the ones you meet at BeHASSTic is so very important.
Okay, well, now that we know sort of what you need in order to take a theory exam, how are the exams adapted for COVID-19?
Okay, so at the beginning of COVID, the Royal Conservatory of Music worked very, very hard to ensure that students who were working towards both performance and theory exams would be able to complete them. So for this part of the discussion, we'll focus on the theory exams. Now, for all of 2021, which is all of next year, theory exams will be exclusively online for levels 5 to level 8. So in order to write an examination, you'll have to register on the Royal Conservatory website for your level. You purchase an exam package, which contains some practice questions and the actual examination. However, there's one important difference from a written examination. The exam has a time limit of 60 minutes and you only get one attempt. That means once you start it, you have to complete it. You've only got 60 minutes. The style of questions is also quite different, and they are multiple choice or what we would call drop and drag questions. So I have a couple of examples on the next screen to give you an idea what the exam would look like. Now, this is a question that's going to obviously test your knowledge of scales and key signatures. All right, so it's multiple choice. They're giving you 4 potential answers here, and you would have to figure out that answer precisely and as quickly as possible. You would probably think, oh, it starts on a G. It's got to be a G scale. So they've given us 4 options for G scales. And then you're quickly thinking, is it major? Is it minor? You're thinking about what you see on the screen. And right away, you're seeing this is a scale that has mixed accidentals. It's got a flat, it's got a natural, it's got a sharp. But most importantly, when we look at the descending portion of the scale, we see it's different from the ascending portion. So right away, boom, you would think through all of that logic and come up with the fact that that is a G minor melodic scale. Let me show you some example questions about chords now. So here's a couple for chords and triads. First one, name the key, chord, and position. Assume a major key. So we know what key it's in. This is a 3-part answer. All right, so we know it's G major. They've told us it's major. We want to be able to look at this chord right away and know by the shape of it what inversion it's in. Like boom, right away. This is a second inversion chord. I can tell by the shape of the chord. But then you would also have to figure out, is it major? Is it minor? So you have to have a really good working knowledge of your chords here. Let's look at the second chord now on the right side of the screen. Identify this chord using root quality symbols. So right away you have to know, I know what a root quality symbol is. What's the root of this chord? It's built on a G, so that's the root. Now I have 3 potentials here, but right away I can rule out the top choice, G7, because we know that is a dominant 7th chord with 4 different notes, and this one only has 3. Now, right away, I have to look and see, okay, is this a major chord or a minor chord? So you have to really, really be up on your chords. I think the chord section is the most challenging one, and you have to be very, very clear on the concepts for chords. Now, at the conclusion of the workshop, you'll all be receiving a PDF handout that's been prepared to help you study for your online Level 5 theory examination. There are things for each unit that you must have confidently memorized in order to complete the exam successfully in 60 minutes. There are more than 60 questions, I'm quite sure, so you can't take too long on any one question or you will risk not finishing the paper.
Okay, so now that we know how the exams are working, what are the exam dates for the coming year?
Okay, so for theory online exams, there are no specific registration dates now that they're online. You can purchase an exam package at any point, but there are 2 packages for you to consider for levels 5 to level 8. Let's take a look at those now. All right, so the first option is to purchase an online theory exam for level 5, and the cost would be $125. And with $125, you would get 1 practice examination and one actual examination. So you can go through the practice exam one time, and then you would do your actual examination. Now, this package is currently being developed. It will be available for you to register on December 1st or any time after that, and it will be valid for 30 days from the time you purchase the examination package. Now, the second option, this is the one that I encourage my students to consider because it has more flexibility and it has more helpful information. This is called the Online Study Guide and Examination, and you can see it's $50 more. It's $175 for level 5, but it's divided up into 8 study modules. So it takes you through some information that would support all of the learning you're doing at BeHASSTic. There's practice tests for each unit. You can run each practice test 3 times. And there's also actual unit tests, which are 10-minute timed tests on each unit. There's also a practice exam and a final exam. Now for option 2, your mark is determined differently. The mark for option 2 is determined by your scores on the unit tests, those 8 unit tests, 10-minute tests, and your score on the final examination. Now option 2, it's going to take you longer to go through it because there's more the testing is broken down into more sections. So you have a full year to complete option 2, Online Study Guide and Examination. So both of those are valid. Both of those are going to test you on your level 5 theory. If you want an option with more online practice, I would say go for option 2. If you're feeling confident of the styles of questions after you see the handout from today's workshop, go with option 1.
Okay, so we got several questions about performance exams. So when are they? How do you register and how are they marked?
Great questions. There's so much information here. I'm so glad that Beatrice will be putting this on her YouTube channel. So if you haven't got everything down or you want to take a bit longer to look at the slides, you can go and review them there after we're finished today. All right, so this is just a very quick overview of the other 3 streams of piano or instrumental education that are covered in the performance or the practical exams that we called them. They cover off repertoire, as we had mentioned before, musicianship skills, and of course there is assessment. Now let me break it down and talk more specifically about these great questions. So it's a graded system starting from preparatory level right through to a diploma level, and there's also a post-diploma level for piano exams. So there's a prep level, there's grades 1, 2, 3, 4, right up to 10. There is an ARCT diploma level, and there is a post-licentiate diploma level. Now, each assessment has several components. You would be preparing technical elements, things like scales, chords, arpeggios, played from memory at very specific speeds that are geared for each level. Also, there are etudes that you would be preparing, 1 or 2, depending on the level, played artistically and with technical ease. There's also a repertoire section, 3 or more different repertoire selections of different styles, played fluently and stylistically. There are also sight reading and orals tests, or sometimes we call them listening tests, demonstration of playing and rhythmic fluency, interval and chord recognition, and all of the specific details for every level is available in the syllabus that is listed on the Royal Conservatory's website. You can access that for free, and each level is broken down to tell you exactly which technical elements you need, which etudes are possible to be played, which repertoire goes with your level. Now, in order to be properly prepared for each grade or level, you will need the following set of books. You will need this is the set for level 8, but there is a comparable set for every single level. You need a repertoire book, the etude book, a sight reading and ear test book to help you develop strategies for accurate sight reading and ear tests, and also a technical requirements book that will teach you the exact patterns at the exact tempo that they will be wanting to test. But most important, in order to prepare you properly, you are going to need a teacher who can help you achieve your musical goals and help you prepare for the assessment. Now, for the current session, all of the piano exams and all instrumental exams are being held remotely over Zoom, which is actually pretty cool when you think about it. You get to play on your own piano in the comfort of your own home, and the examiner will listen and write a report as you play each particular element for them. Now, each thing that you play receives a mark, and the total for possible marks for any instrumental or performing exam is 100. 60 is required to pass. Now, if you play consistently well, you will likely score in the 80s. Now, if you play perfectly, stylistically, with lots of expression and confidence, you can score in the 90s. You can sign up at any point on the RCM website, and you can choose the date and time that you want to do your examination. Dates are currently available right through till the end of April. So once again, like the theory exams, there's a lot of flexibility for when you sign up for instrumental exams because they are all currently online. There are no in-person exams currently. Now, there's a great website that will help you to explain everything you need to know about examinations. And if you are in the US, you'll want to make sure you choose the USA link. If you are in Canada or international, you can just get the information that you need on the main website there. So thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to talk to you about exams. I hope you all have great luck on your upcoming examinations. And I believe now we've got a good amount of time to address any questions that you might have, or we can revisit anything you'd like to review.
Okay, so we got a question. Do you have any preparation suggestions about like how long a student normally would need to prepare for the exam?
Okay, are they speaking of like a theory exam here or a piano exam? Can they give us more information?
Yeah, theory exam.
Okay, so for a theory exam, again, it a little bit depends on the level of the student that is playing. Probably, I would say probably a few months. You can get ready for a level 5 examination, provided you are able and willing to commit to some time every week to review, to practicing the question types, to doing lots of homework. So now if you went the online exam, if let's say, for example, you finished your Celebrate Theory workbook and you were to purchase the online exam package, you could probably go through 1 unit per week and do your unit tests. So if there's 8 units, I would say approximately 8 weeks, but it's very flexible because it is online. You could do it as quickly as you want, or you can take up to a year. So again, it's very flexible. My guess would be about 8 weeks for that.
Okay. Another question is, when do you get the exam results after you take one of them?
Oh, great question. All right, so we've the answer for theory is with the online exams, you will see, because it is all marked electronically, you will see your mark directly after you finish the examination. It will be on screen for you. And then the way you would access it, you should be able to see that if you go onto your if you log into the Royal Conservatory website, look up your previous exam marks, but this mark would appear under digital learning this time. Okay, so that mark will appear instantly for you because of the online exam. Now, if we wanted to know about the piano or performance exams, the mark for that usually would appear in your account approximately 2 weeks after you do the examination. And then if you give it a couple more weeks beyond that, then usually at that point, the PDF of the examiner comments and the breakdown of marks would also appear for you. So you would be able to see exactly what suggestions for improvement the examiners made according to the way that you performed that day.
Okay. Another question is, do the online exams cover any new material that isn't covered in the books?
These are great questions. Thank you, Julia. No, there's no new material, but the things that might appear new is that it is a new way of testing it from the style of questions you found in the workbook. All right, so there's no tricks, there's no new material, but the style of questions are different because they are multiple choice and drop down types of questions. And in the notebook, unfortunately, there are no multiple choice to practice, which is why some people prefer to purchase the study guide and test, because it does give you more practice in preparing for this new question format.
Okay. Do you have to take a music theory exam before you take an instrument exam?
No, not for levels 5 to level 8. You don't have to. Now, once you get to level 5, of course, we've got theory exams and we've got playing exams. And assuming that we'll just assume that you're a piano player. So if you do the level 5 piano exam first, then that's fine. There's no requirement, no time limit, no restrictions on when you do the level 5 theory. The only restriction is when you fully complete any level, the Royal Conservatory will issue you a lovely certificate saying you have completed it. And they will not issue you the level 5 certificate until you have completed both your piano exam and the level 5 theory exam. But there's no time limit, and you can do them in any order.
Okay. The next question is, when will paper exams start again? Do you have an estimate?
Well, you know what? I think I would have to be magic if I had an estimate, because it's very much going to depend on COVID. And I think for both in the United States and in Canada, COVID is still pretty much running wild right now. So until we get a good handle on the cases, I think on a national level, I know there are some places, some states and some provinces in Canada that have very, very low numbers. But because the Royal Conservatory is an international program, there won't be any paper examinations until the numbers are way down and we can safely write them in person. So all I know so far is that for all of 2021, which means examinations right through to a year from now, will be online. I haven't heard any predictions after that, but let's keep our fingers crossed that we can go back to in-paper examinations for 2022.
Okay. Are the online exams open book at all?
Yeah, these are excellent questions. In fact, the online exams can be open book because you're sitting there by yourself. There's no one is monitoring you from level 5 till level 8. So yes, it can be open book. The problem is if you have an open book beside you and you are constantly referring to your book for specific pieces of information, that takes time. And if you do that too much, you're going to waste a lot of time looking for things in your book or on your cheat sheet, for example. So yes, you can, but bear in mind that the better you know your theory, the less you're going to need to have a cheat sheet. And if you need to keep referring to the cheat sheet, you're going to use up valuable time when you only have 60 minutes. So you'll really just have to kind of weigh that option. And I would really strongly encourage you to try to have everything so completely secure in your mind that you don't have to have a sheet to refer to.
Okay. Next question. Will you be able to see what you did wrong on an exam? Like, I'm assuming this is towards theory, like directly after, will you be able to see what you got wrong?
Let me think about that for a minute. Now, when you do if you purchase the study guide and the modules and the practice tests, you can check every single question after you do it. And it will tell you what's wrong and what is partly correct, things like that. Now, I believe the way the actual exam is scored, you will be able to see right away which questions you missed and were wrong. I'm not sure if you could go back and review them or not. On the practice tests and the practice exams, you can take a look at them again and review them. But I'm not sure for the final exam. But you will know where you lost your marks, definitely.
Okay. Now, do colleges recognize RCM certificates and achievements?
Yes, they do. And it is different for every state, all right? And it's also different in the US versus Canada. So I can tell you of the way it works in Canada, but I'll be very transparent here. Say I cannot advise you on the specifics of what recognition you might get from state to state. That is also available on the website if you go to the US link. The way it works in Canada, again, it's different from province to province. The same way it might be different from state to state. But in the province that I'm in Ontario, level 8 theory and level 8 piano is considered a 12th grade credit. So it's equivalent to a senior arts course in our high school system. If you do a level 7 theory and a level 7 piano, that is equivalent to a junior arts credit in our high school system. It does count on transcripts. Marks do count that way. So our students take them into their guidance counselors at high school and make sure that they are added to their transcripts. There are currently in Canadian universities, there are currently some advanced courses that can give you advanced standing if you are a music major in university. Those are beyond level 8. Those would be level 9, level 10, ARCT, harmony, history, and counterpoint exams. So again, I refer you to the website and look up the specific information for your state.
Okay. Are all the questions in online exams multiple choice, or will there be other types?
Okay, so the majority of the questions are multiple choice. There are some that I think I showed you a chord question where it had a 3-part question. So there's sort of 3 drop-down menus. You had to pick a key, you had to pick the type of triad, you had to pick the inversion of the triad. The only other type of question that is not multiple choice is for the melody writing section. And there is one example on the handout that you'll receive at the end of the workshop. And this is what they call drop and drag. So they give you an opening of a melody, and then they give you a whole bunch of little boxes beneath it, and you have to put your mouse on the boxes and drag them onto the staff there in the correct order to come up with a parallel period with a nice strong ending on the tonic. So that is the only question that is not multiple choice, and I believe there's only one of those on the exam because you do need to spend a little bit more time looking at that question than the multiple choice style.
Are there categories of achievements that you can get based on the grade you receive on an exam?
Yes, absolutely. So if you receive 60 is a pass. This is the same for piano exams and theory exams, all right? 60 is a pass. If you get 70 to 79, that is considered as an honors standing. 80 to 89 is considered first class honors standing, and 90 to 100 is considered first class honors with distinction. And for theory exams, it is quite possible to score 100%. So you want to aim for 100% because that's quite an achievement.
Are you allowed to take the same exam multiple times?
Yes, you could take the exam as many times as you wanted to, but bear in mind you would have to purchase another examination. Now, generally people don't do an examination more than once unless they were very, very underprepared and they dreadfully failed the examination. Then of course you would want to do some review, you would want to do some further study, because that would make it very difficult to do the next examination unless you did a redo on the one that you did poorly on. I have heard of very infrequently a student getting 90 and deciding they wanted to redo the exam to see if they can improve on it. But again, it is an additional exam fee in order to reapply for the examination.
Is there a minimum score that you need to get to qualify for the next level? I believe you said passing was a 60, so.
Yeah, passing is 60, and there's no, that's the minimum you would need to get to move on. But bear in mind that if you, let's say you really, really rushed through a level 5, for example, and you scored a 62, well, if that means you only know 62% of the material from level 5, it's going to make it dreadfully difficult to move to level 6. You want to try and score as high as you possibly can, because the theory is very much cumulative, meaning one level builds on the next level, which builds on the next level. So each level builds out of the previous level. So you want to have the most thorough and comprehensive understanding of level 5 that you can possibly have.
Okay. Are there Rcm exams that you can take if you're not in the US or Canada?
Yes, absolutely. We have exam centers in many countries of the world. There's an exam centers in China and Japan that I know of. I believe there are some in Europe as well. So yes, there, and right now with the Zoom exams, of course, that makes absolutely no boundaries for examinations for piano or theory. So anywhere in the world, you could sign up for a Zoom exam and complete it. And one thing I'd like to mention is going forward, when we are able to resume in-person instrumental exams, which of course I have no idea when that will be, the Royal Conservatory has also made a commitment to continue with online instrumental exams indefinitely as an option for people who, say, perhaps live far away from an exam center, or perhaps are visiting a country where they don't have access to a music studio, etc. So the remote exams are here to stay for theory and for piano. There will be in-person exams resuming at some later point, but as I had mentioned earlier, I do not have a date when that might be.
Okay. After buying the book or course, how much time do you have before you take the exam?
Okay, if you buy the book, there's absolutely no restrictions on that. Some people actually buy the books and go through them and don't do the exams. If you buy the online course, there's 2 different guidelines. If you buy the online course that is just the test and the practice exam, you only have 30 days to complete that. That was the option that's available December the 1st. Okay, now you wouldn't want to purchase that. That was option 1, practice exam and the actual exam. You wouldn't want to purchase that unless you had completed the book, because you won't have much time to prepare for that final examination. Now, if you are, say, just starting on the workbook and you wanted to perhaps do the online study modules along with the chapters in the book, you could purchase the second option, which was the study guide and the online examination. And from the date you purchase that, you have 1 full year to complete all of the unit tests and the final examination. That's what I'm recommending my students are doing right now. We're working through the books, but after we've worked through the book together, then they go to the online course, they practice this practice test to get used to those multiple choice and drop and drag questions, and then they complete the unit. I find it works well for them that way.
Okay. Do you have to buy the online course or just the book in order to get ready for the exam?
You can buy just the book. Again, here's some options. You can buy just the book, work through the book, and then buy the online examination for $125. If you have a fairly good theory background, some students will only buy option 2, the study guide and online test for $175. There are some things that are not tested on the online exam just because they only have 60 minutes, and some things are very difficult to test in a multiple choice format. If you want to be the most comprehensive learner, I would say the workbook is ideal, and to do the online study guide and test would cover off every potential scenario and give you lots of practice.
What happens if you're not finished with your exam and you run out of time?
Okay, if you're not finished, actually the timer is running and the exam will stop. It basically will kick you out of the exam at that point. So it will say time is up, and then it will base your score on the questions that you had completed.
Okay. Is it easy to get above a 90 in the exams?
For theory exams, if you're well prepared, absolutely. It's very easy to get above 90. And I think in some ways, actually, it's easier to get above 90 on an online exam than on a written exam. Let me tell you why. If you think about writing all of your homework in your theory notebooks, you know how easy it is to perhaps have a sharp in the wrong place, or perhaps have a note that should have been in a space, but it's kind of in a line, or forget a double bar line at the end of, say, something that you're writing. So all of those things, when you're doing a written exam, all of those things are deductions because those are mistakes. All right. So for a written exam, you have to be much, much more detailed and have super neat penmanship to score over 90. It is possible though. But if you think about an online exam, you don't have to worry about placement of sharps. You don't have to worry about if a note is kind of partly on a line and partly on a space, because all of that is done for you in multiple choice questions. So I do think it is easier to score a higher mark, provided you have practiced the multiple choice and drop down styles of questions so that you won't run out of time.
Is there an age cutoff for the Rcm exams?
No age cutoff at all. You can be as young as you can, but you have to be able to read it independently. We've had adults do them as well, so all ages and all stages. Now, I should also mention that there are sometimes special circumstances where students might need a little bit of help. I have had students in the past who perhaps had some learning challenges with reading. So in that case, the Royal Conservatory has a special form you can fill out if you do need additional help. So for that particular student, they were able to bring in a person to read the questions for them. It couldn't be their teacher, it couldn't be their mother, it had to be someone who knew nothing about theory, but would just read the questions. I've had another student who is a very clever young man, but just needs extra time in order to complete things. So he asked for extra time. So these types of changes and requests would probably more apply to written examinations. And to be very honest, I'm not sure if there would be possibilities of getting more time on an online examination. But if that is your circumstance, and you do feel that because of the way you learn and because of the way you work, it might be beneficial to have more time, I would really encourage you to write candidate services at the Royal Conservatory of Music, or perhaps fill out a special request form, which is also on the website if you go into their search engine, and see if that is possible. Because for some people, I know that would be very beneficial. And I'm sorry I don't have the answer to that today, but if that is you, I would encourage you to seek out some additional help or some additional time on the examination.
Okay. How many levels of Rcm exams are there?
Okay, so for piano exams, there is, they start at preparatory level. I'll talk about piano, and then we'll talk about how theory is comparable. So we have a preparatory level, and then we have grades 1 through 10, and then we have ARCT, the Associateship Diploma, and then we have the Licentiate Diploma. All right, now for those levels, there are theory learning levels for all of those levels from Prep B right up to ARCT. However, there is not examinations for theory until you reach level 5. And then there are theory examinations from level 5 right through to ARCT. All right. Now, when you reach senior theory levels, that would be level 9. This is beyond rudiments. Then you actually have a playing exam, and you have 2 theory exams. You have a harmony exam and a history exam. And then for level 9 and 10, you have both of those require 2 theory exams, harmony and history. When you reach ARCT level, the diploma level, there is a piano exam. There are 3 theory exams. There's a harmony exam, there's a history exam, and there's an analysis exam. So you can see that as the levels go higher and the work becomes more complex, the theory stream is actually split into 2 and sometimes 3 different streams on its own.
Okay. How long does a piano exam generally take?
Okay, well, it really depends on the level because, if you are a person who is, say, playing grade 2 music, your songs are pretty short. They're generally 1 page in your repertoire book. There's not too many scales and triads to prepare. Everything is relatively short. The sight reading is short. The oral skills or the ear tests are quite short. So I think the entire examination will be just under 15 minutes. Now, as you move up in the levels, the songs become much longer. The repertoire is longer. Sometimes you have to play more repertoire selections. There are more scales to prepare. The sight reading is longer. So the time for the examination does increase. So for example, a level 8 examination is about half an hour. A level 10 ARCT examination, the upper levels are probably 45 minutes to an hour in length.
Okay. Can you see where you lost points in a piano exam? I believe you already partially answered this.
Oh yes, I'm happy to go over that. So as you do your playing examination, the examiner or the assessor will be preparing comments, and they will write comments for each selection that you play. They will write comments for your etudes. They will write comments for your technical skills, etc. Now, for each area where they've made a comment, they will give you a mark as well, and different elements are weighted differently. It's all listed in the syllabus. For example, the technical skills, I believe, are worth 12 marks. That would be your scales and your chords. Your etudes are worth 12 marks. Sight reading is worth 10, ear tests are worth 10, and the songs are weighted differently. And for each one of those areas, you would get a mark. And then at the end, it's all tallied and added up to 100. So yes, you can see exactly where you lost your marks. Now keep in mind that when an examiner is listening to you play some beautiful repertoire, they are not mentally ticking off every time you make a little mistake or every time you have a little tiny pause. They are evaluating your entire performance of that particular piece in terms of how musical it is. Do you understand the style? Is it flowing confidently? Is it memorized? And then they are just assigning a mark based on the entire performance. They will put some comments saying what the strengths of your performances are, and they will also put some suggestions for improvement. So it's in the suggestions for improvement that you will see kind of where you lost your marks. Okay, so they will give you some positives and some things to work on. And then based on the things to work on, that would be where you would have had some deductions.
The next question is, will I need an accompaniment for an instrument exam during COVID?
I believe that for the early grades, they have relaxed the instrumental accompanist requirements. If it's possible to have an accompanist, that is always preferred. But once again, I have to say I am more a piano-centric teacher and examiner, so I can refer you to the website for that, and there would be more information about accompanist requirements. It is quite difficult unless you have an accompanist right in your family right now. So I believe there is some flexibility in that regard.
All right. Is there only one or exam per level, or are there multiple?
I believe, for the online exam, I'm assuming they're asking, I believe there are multiple exams. So the questions are somewhat randomized. So if you did an exam and your brother's doing an exam right beside you, there's a very good chance you would have different questions. There would be some that perhaps would be the same. There's no guarantee they would be in the same order. They would be testing the same things, but there's quite a randomized bank of questions.
Okay. In practical exams, is there still sight reading since it's like online now?
Yeah, these are such good questions. I'm so happy to address them. There is still sight reading, but it obviously has to be in a different format. So for practical exams, what they're doing now is they are calling it prepared sight reading. This is the way it works. If you had signed up for an exam, and let's say your exam is on the 15th of December, on the 14th of December, you would receive an email, and in that email, there would be a PDF copy of your sight reading. And the expectation is that you would take the next 24 hours or a portion of that time to actually practice and prepare that sight reading. We're not expecting you to put it away until your exam. We're expecting you to work on it, get it as fluent and as beautiful as possible, practice the rhythmic clapping as well. And then when the examiner comes online with you, they would ask you, do you have your sight reading? You would show them the sheet, and then they would get you to demonstrate that. The only thing the Royal Conservatory is asking is that you don't do any writing on the sheet. Now, for most people, that wouldn't be an issue, but perhaps for some early learners, they might be tempted to write the notes in. They're asking you to please not do that, just to learn the music in the 24 hours you have to prepare it.
Okay. We only have a couple questions left. So first one is, can I record my practical exam or is it live? And also, what is ARCT?
Okay, so we'll talk about recording and then we'll talk about ARCT. So you are not supposed to record your examination, your Zoom examination, but if you do a Zoom examination and you look at the screen, you will see that the examination is being recorded by the Royal Conservatory. So the reason they are recording it is just for internal quality control purposes. Basically, they want to know if the Zoom connection was bad. Basically, they're not going to be using it to review what the examiner gave you for marks. It's just basically to check that the Zoom connection was good and the examination could proceed as planned. You're not supposed to record it, and if there's too many devices on screen, it does sometimes affect the quality of the sound that we are hearing over the screen. If I could add one more thing, if you do anticipate doing an online examination, it's really ideal if you can have the opportunity to purchase an external microphone. It seems that the microphones in computers are just not that great for piano. But if you have the option of either renting an external mic or borrowing one or purchasing one. I do not believe they're that expensive. The quality of sound transmission from your piano to the examiner is superior. In many cases, when I've been doing piano exams, it truly sounded like the person was sitting right in my studio playing for me. It was that clear. And that allows the examiner to give you a very fair and a very comprehensive evaluation of what they're hearing. The other thing I would say if you are doing a piano exam is it's probably not a good idea to be using a wireless earbuds to talk to the examiner. I'm using a plug-in set of an old-fashioned set of earbuds, and they work really well. The reason that the wireless ones don't work real well is the wireless ones tend to filter out extraneous noise. They filter out a lot of extraneous noise, and quite a bit of the time they think the piano is extraneous noise. So they'll filter that out. Your piano will not be heard very well. The other thing that they will filter out is they'll filter out the clapping when you're doing rhythmic clapping as part of the sight reading activity. The examiner will not hear your clapping. So I would encourage you not to use wireless earbuds. Now, the other question was ARCT. I'm sorry, I kept using that short form, and that's not fair because you don't know what those letters stand for. So it stands for Associate of the Royal Conservatory at Toronto. Okay, and that is a diploma given by the Royal Conservatory of Music, and that is above level 10 piano. So for piano, it is some of the most difficult piano music that is out there. You would be playing 3 movements of sonatas. You would be playing a Bach prelude and fugue. You would be playing something romantic, a considerable work by a romantic composer, something by impressionist composer, and something that's post-20th century, in addition to a concert etude. So it's a very, very long and involved program. There is ARCT, or an associateship diploma, for all different instruments. There's an excellent violin one. The interesting thing about violin, it is the hardest and the most difficult repertoire that has ever been composed for the violin. So it's quite a challenging program, but it's also quite a wonderful achievement to be able to be tested and receive a diploma from the Royal Conservatory of Music for your associateship. Now, beyond that, for piano, because there is some more difficult piano repertoire that exists, there is a licentiate diploma, and it's just called a licentiate diploma of the Royal Conservatory of Music. Again, it's extremely advanced repertoire, and the expectation is that it would be at a concert level performance, but you would be tested by 2 examiners for that.
Okay. Do you need to know how to play piano in order to take music theory exams?
Well, no, you don't need to know how to play the piano, but I think the whole reason that you would be doing theory in the first place is because you are identifying as a musician. It could be piano, it could be viola, you could be a harpist, you could be a percussionist. There's all different streams of instrumental programs for the conservatory. You could be a vocalist for that matter. I guess we talk about piano a lot because the theory exams are basically very piano-centric, meaning let's say you are a violinist, you're going to need to know the bass clef really well, all right? Or if you are a person who is playing a tuba, you're going to have to learn all the treble clef notes. So I think the piano players do have a little bit of an advantage because they are so conversant in both bass clef and treble clef. If that is not the situation for your instrument, be prepared to learn notes very securely in another clef, and then you won't have any difficulties on the theory.
Is there ear training in any of the Rcm exams?
There is ear training on all of the performance exams from preparatory levels right through level 10. I don't believe there's any ear training for the associateship diploma exam. There would also be sight reading all the way from the preparatory level right through to level 10 performance, not on the associateship. There is also another stream. There's also a pedagogy stream, which is a series of 3 examinations there are multiple parts to each level, which would be the art of piano teaching. That's what pedagogy is. And there are various sight, reading, and ear test examinations as part of that stream.
Okay, and then is there ear training on, sorry, can you take a practical exam at any time as well?
Yes, you can take that. That's fully open right now with the remote exams. And as I said, there are dates listed right through till the end of April. Those are accessible for anyone in any country. There's no stipulations for US or Canada. Those dates are open to everyone. Beyond April, I have not heard if they will be doing in-person examinations. The remote examinations, as I said, will be continuing indefinitely, so those will be open to you at any time. If you are a person who really wants to do an in-person exam, there are very specific weeks examinations are held, but currently, because of COVID, there has been no dates scheduled.
Okay, that's all the questions that we've gotten today. So if you have any other questions, you can email Melody at keyboardimpressions@gmail.com. I put it in the chat. And she's also going to be offering a level 7 RCM theory class. So if you're interested, you can sign up using the Google form. Thank you everyone for coming today. And the webinar is over now.